What's up YouTube, it's Heretic here, and I'm back, just like I said I'd be, today with another deck profile from Primal Clash On, and we're looking at Xerneas BREAK today, which is kind of like a gold-plated, slightly less powerful version of Mega Gardevoir. So I'm gonna give my pitch on why I think Xerneas BREAK is just as good, if not a little bit better than Mega Gardevoir. And of course there's the obvious, it only gives up one prize. So we're going to start with 4 Xerneas. Yes, one of these is a Rainbow Road Xerneas. It is not supposed to be. I only have 3 Geomancies right now, so proxy this is another Geomancy. So we've got 4, because these things are not rotating because they're being reprinted in Steam Siege with some pretty nice new artwork. Not as good as Oblivion Wing Eviltall, but still, I think I like this artwork. But anyway, just very simple attacker. Does 100 damage for 3, discards 1, but more importantly, Geomancy for 1 fairy, a lot like Volcanion from yesterday, except no damage, and instead of accelerating energy from the discard, it pulls 2 fairy energy from the deck. And you choose 2 of your bench Pokemon, and each one gets an energy. You guys know that. So, that's Xerneas. And then, why use Rainbow Spear when we can attack with Xerneas BREAK? 3 copies of that. Now, Xerneas BREAK for 2 fairy, there's 20 damage times the amount of energy you have on your board. So he's gonna look pretty darn solid. We start swinging with that guy. So Xerneas and Xerneas BREAK just kind of making stuff happen there, I guess. So you build up a pretty big board there. It's very similar to like a Mega Gardevoir or the Darkrai Giratina, with or without Garbodor, whatever, however you want to build it. Pretty similar to that one. So we're gonna have a kind of a similar engine running around here. We're gonna have 2 Giratinas, because that's, you know, attached double dragon. You get 40 extra damage instead of 20. Can't really complain about that. And then we're going to play the 2 Latios. I would actually probably prefer Hydreigon EX, except for we have Fairy Garden, so that kind of takes care of what Hydreigon would be doing for us. Don't really have another dragon to play right now. Don't really want to invest in running, the Tyrantrum. So this is basically what we have available to us in Standard. So we're just going to kind of make some use out of it. So we got Latios and Giratina. Then we got 2 Shaymins. And finally 1 Jirachi. I expect Mega Rayquaza will be huge. So we have the ability of Giratina EX to stop that. And we also have Jirachi, which is probably a tougher counter to deal with, although with Pokemon Ranger just being able to nullify the invulnerability. Definitely think that Jirachi will become a bit more situational than it is now. And that's something going into Worlds to look for in Worlds format, is that Ranger can get around Stardust, which is really huge. So that's our Pokemon lineup here. We've got 4 Sycamores, 3 Ends, much like yesterday. We don't have Compressor anymore. Not that Fairy decks would really run Compressor much to begin with, but no Compressor, so I do want to put that 3rd N in there just to kind of buff up consistency, especially because, once again, we are not running Trainer's Mails either. We got 2 Lysanders, then we got a Hex, and we got a Pokemon Ranger. Pretty simple, pretty standard stuff. Of course, with the loss of Aromatisse, we have to find some alternative ways to keep our energy where we want it. We also lose access to Max Potion, which is rather huge. That's part of the reason why I think that Xerneas BREAK is a better choice than Mega Gardevoir going forward. You don't have to work nearly as hard to get it out because you don't need the Spirit Link, and it only attacks for 2 energy instead of 3. And if it does take a hit and gets knocked out, it's only yielding 1 prize as opposed to 2. We got 4 Fairy Gardens, so give all our guys free retreat because that just seems good to me. Then we got 4 VS Seekers for our supporters, consistency, 4 Max Elixirs. Unlike yesterday's deck where we were dumping all our energy in the discard, this time we want all of it on the board, much like the Darkrai build. So you use Max Elixir in combination with Geomancy and whatever energy you draw into your hand, plus double dragons. You get all of your energy on the board right away and just kind of wail away with it. You could also just build it with pure fairy energy if you want. You'd have more targets after a turn or 2, and you could build a pretty big board that way too. Just that your overall damage cap would be a little bit less. We have 4 Ultra Balls for Pokemon Search. Again, just pretty standard. 1 Escape Rope. We do have Fairy Garden, so we don't have to go too heavily on the whole thing with switching out like we did in the other one in the Volcanion deck. So really pretty simple. You know, Fairy Garden really does a great job of that for us. And so just kind of having the 1 Escape Rope ready, I think, is just good to force your opponent something out. Maybe we don't quite have something set up that we need to attack. They're, you know, like whatever they have out. For the most part, you know, if we can't get a Dragon charged up to attack a Glaceon and we don't have Ranger for the turn, just another out. For the most part, Jolteon isn't really a threat because Xerneas BREAK will just go right through it. But just kind of another little ideal. You can also lock Fairy Garden into play with Chaos Wheel, which is fun, depending on whether or not your opponent needs a stadium that badly. We got 1 Special Charge. It's a new item card that lets you shuffle 2 special energies from your discard back into your deck. If you draw a bunch of double dragons early, you're probably discarding them. So you might attach one here or there, but at least first turn. So if you're forced to Sycamore them away, or if one of your dragons gets KO'd, get your energy back. And get your Pokemon back with Super Rod. This can also get valuable fairy energy back if it does hit the discard pile. Although, admittedly, we're going to try to prevent that from happening as much as possible, but it's never going to be perfect. So that's an option. Another really big thing about this deck is it does not rely on abilities, really. You have the abilities of Giratina and Shaman, but other than maybe the first turn or so, unless you're going up against a Mega deck, you're really not using those that much. So it's kind of cool to be able to freely not have to worry about Garbodor, since there don't appear to be any tool removal cards yet, unless they mystery card in Steam Siege as Megaphone or Zero Sick. So anyway, I mentioned keeping energy on the board. We play 3 copies of EXP Share. Now this might look weird, but listen to this for a moment. Okay, so we've got an evolution that's our main attacker, which throws Fighting Fury Belt out the window. Sure, it would work on any of these guys, or if you just didn't evolve with Xerneas, but the idea here is to attack with Xerneas BREAK. So we're not going to focus on Belt. We could run Floatstones, but we have Fairy Garden, and even if we didn't, we would have Hydreigon EX to kind of help us with that problem, at least for the Dragon types. But just kind of having Fairy Garden just makes it a lot easier. Muscle Band is rotating, Hard Charm is rotating, and we don't need Spirit Links because we're not Mega Evolutions like Gardevoir. So really that opens up what we can do with Pokemon tools. You could just skip the tools altogether and just try to play Trainer's Mails there instead. I could definitely get behind that idea. Or you could play the EXP shares to kind of prevent your energies from going off the board, so Xerneas continues to hit a high damage output throughout the game, which I think is a pretty neat idea, and it's worked out pretty well so far. Not gonna lie about that. We got 4 double dragon energies, obviously. So we got our dragon types, and then the damage will also be buffed up by Xerneas. Then we got 5, 7, 8, 9 fairy energies. I only have 8 hollow ones. Rip. So that's just, it might seem a little low for max elixirs, much like my metal list did before Nationals, but you know, in my experience playtesting for and at Nationals with that metal deck, honestly having 9 basic energies was plenty enough. Now you might think, well, we're also going to be pulling Geomancy here. I think if you wanted to go up to 10, you could probably find a way to do that, but with EXP share, keeping energy on the board, we probably don't need to. So you could definitely try to toy with the numbers and fit it however you like it, but right now I think this is pretty solid. Really liking the way this list is performing at the moment. And I think if you start getting up to 14 plus overall energy cards, it begins to be a little too much. So I don't know, maybe you could cut one of these for another fairy if you really want. I just like it with 4 double dragon. But that's my Xerneas BREAK Dragons list. At least how it looks right now. That is Primal Clash on. So, of course, no AZ, no Startling Megaphone, although this deck doesn't really need it. So, I do expect Fighting Fury Belt to be a pretty dominant card. So the fact that we do not have access to it with our primary attacker is definitely a big deal. If we don't have tool removal, though, Fighting Fury Belt could be a bitch to deal with, so definitely keep that in mind. Maybe try to use a Giratina early to lock them out of their Pokemon tools until we can get a big knockout if you're worried about something like that. Otherwise, just go ham with Xerneas. It's pretty simple. So anyway, that's what I got for you guys right now. And so between yesterday's deck and today's, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will see you guys again soon. Cheers.